It's an interesting update that just came out on Thursday in the ongoing investigation into the Biden family and their business dealings in Ukraine. They're now saying that Democrat lobbyists are under investigation over their work for the Ukrainian energy firm linked to Hunter Biden. New reports say that this Burisma-linked firm pitched a Ukrainian prosecutor access to the Clinton camp back in 2016. Before I start, I'd just like to thank everyone once again who has been supporting this channel with your donations over at Patreon or PayPal. Even just a few dollars makes a huge difference and helps me keep talking about these important issues. You can find either link down in the video description where you can support this channel directly, patreon.com/realityreader or paypal.me/realityreader. Politico reported on Thursday that the Justice Department has launched a federal investigation into the work of a consulting firm connected with Hunter Biden for allegedly illegally lobbying a Ukrainian energy company. Blue Star Strategies, the company in question, provided services to the Ukrainian energy company Burisma, while then Vice President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, was a member of its board. The lobbying firm's co-founders, Karen Tramontano and Sally Painter, have a long history in Washington politics, including serving in the Clinton administration. They go on to remind us how Blue Star has come under fire in recent years for its work for Burisma Holdings, an energy company headquartered in Ukraine that has been investigated for corruption by Ukrainian authorities. No federal lobbying databases show record of Blue Star's work for Burisma, as it was not disclosed, a violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which mandates that Americans release information related to their lobbying work for foreign officials and political parties. Tramontano, one of Blue Star's co-founders, testified that Hunter Biden did not authorize any of the work performed for Burisma. According to congressional testimony, Blue Star's co-founders interacted with U.S. government officials as part of their work for Burisma, but they did not disclose to the Justice Department that Burisma was a client, a former top DOJ official said. This article reminds us once again how Biden pushed to have the prosecutor who was then investigating Burisma fired in 2015 during his tenure as Ukraine point man for the Obama administration. Critics have alleged that Biden pushed for the firing to protect Hunter's interests since he was then serving on the company's board, but Biden has long maintained that the push was part of a broader anti-corruption effort in the country. Interesting to see that this is yet another story that seems to have changed in the way that it's being covered by the mainstream media in the past few months. Before the election, this was completely dismissed, the Biden link to Burisma, and suggesting that the firing of this Ukrainian prosecutor by Biden, Biden's push to have that done, could have had anything to do with Hunter Biden's role at Burisma. The mainstream media did anything they could to dismiss that theory, and it looks like mainstream sources, including Politico and others, are now, after the election, admitting that there could be more to this. Moving on to look at a separate article on the latest updates regarding Burisma and the Biden family. They say the former Ukrainian prosecutor, Yuri Lysenko, told former Obama State Department official George Kent he had been pitched by a Hunter Biden and Burisma-linked lobbying firm to give him access to high levels of the Clinton campaign in the weeks leading up to the 2016 presidential election. The lobbying firm Blue Star Strategies is reportedly under federal investigation for potential illegal lobbying. Politico first reported the investigation, which allegedly comes as the Justice Department is ramping up enforcement of foreign governments' efforts to influence U.S. politics. Once again, I'm sure many watching will find this ironic, as Fox News also points out here. The mainstream media and Democrats have tried linking these efforts to influence U.S. politics to work by Republicans, but this probe into Blue Star puts firms and operatives connected to the Democrat Party under the microscope. In some ways, this is similar to other criticisms against Joe Biden from the past few days, including this article from Fox News as well, posted on June 3rd by DeRoy Murdoch, where he asks, is Joe Biden a Russian asset? Pointing out how Biden has dismantled President Trump's hard-won energy independence. Back to these latest updates on Biden and Burisma, they say in an email released to Citizens United on Thursday as part of a Freedom of Information Act filing and obtained by Fox News, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Europe and Eastern Europe, George Kent, wrote to a number of Obama administration officials about a meeting he had with the Ukrainian prosecutor Yuri Lysenko in September of 2016 about Blue Star strategies. The email with the subject line, Lysenko now likely not to go to D.C. with Blue Star, other Ukrainian issue comments, was sent by Kent to the former Assistant Secretary for Fossil Energy Christopher Smith, former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine Marie Ivanovich, and Alan Purcell, the chief political officer at the Kiev embassy from 2014 to 2017. In the email, dated September 4th, 2016, Kent writes that he met with Lysenko one-on-one after I'd messaged him regarding stories that he was using a third-party lobbyist to pull together a planned trip to D.C., turned into a chat over Thai food at the DCR. This Fox News article reminds us how Kent was a key witness in the first impeachment proceedings against President Trump in 2019. He said the two discussed options of a trip Lysenko had been planning to the U.S. and confirmed he has been pitched by Blue Star, not sought them out. A quote here says, he said he honestly didn't know how Blue Star was to get paid. He didn't have funds, and that some BPP MP that we probably didn't know, and that's good, Truabenko, had introduced them to him, Kent wrote. It is unclear who Truabenko is, this article adds. Another quote from George Kent says, Blue Star CEO Karen Tramontano's pitch was that she could gain him access to high levels of the Clinton campaign. Note, she was Podesta's deputy as deputy chief of staff the last year of Bill Clinton's tenure, and that was appealing to meet the possible next presidential chief of staff. The next quote says, but I pointed out that it wasn't too likely 6 weeks before the election, and that the embassies could arrange meetings at the Department of Justice and State and the Ukrainian embassy on the Hill. As for the Hill, not many members would be around 6 weeks before an election when Congress would be in recess, and the attention of the chattering think tank class would be on the UNGA, not the best timing, apart from the Department of Justice and State. Kent went on to write further about Blue Star Strategies, which helped to represent Ukrainian natural gas firm Burisma Holdings, where Hunter Biden sat on the board. Finally, they remind us once again how Burisma Holdings was at the center of the first impeachment proceedings against President Trump in 2019. In this email, Kent went on to describe news reports surrounding the 2016 election related to Ukrainian lobbying, including work of former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort, as well as work of Tony Podesta, the brother of former Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta, who also did lobbying work with Ukraine. Kent, in his conversation with Lysenko, mentions the various money flows from Ukraine to lobbyists that had been prominently in the news the month before that, including names like Manafort, the Podesta Group, and the Clinton Foundation. Kent then added, quote, he said he'd figure out a better time when there would be more traction / a better audience. This article notes that both Kent and Yovanovitch testified as part of the 2019 Trump impeachment. Kent, during his testimony, said that he raised concerns with Biden's office in 2015 that Hunter Biden's role on the board of Burisma could present, quote, the possibility of the perception of a conflict of interest. Kent also testified that he would love to see Ukraine look into the circumstances surrounding the closure of the probe tied to Burisma. Meanwhile, Yovanovitch testified that she didn't have much knowledge about Burisma Holdings and noted that she only learned of its connection to Biden through press reports she read while preparing for her Senate confirmation hearing. Fox News, however, first reported last year, after obtaining a memo released through a Citizens United FOIA, that Yovanovitch met with Blue Star Strategy's CEO, Karen Tramontano, as a representative of Burisma inside the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine on December 8, 2016. Meanwhile, last year, the Senate Homeland Security Committee, led by, at the time, Senator Ron Johnson, approved subpoenas for Blue Star Strategies as part of its investigation into Hunter Biden's role on the board of Burisma and whether individuals at the firm improperly used the relationship with the then vice president's son to influence U.S. government agencies. Closing this article, they say the investigation into Blue Star Strategies is reportedly being run out of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware, the same office leading the federal investigation into Hunter Biden's tax affairs. The Justice Department declined to comment on the existence of an investigation. Biden announced he was under federal investigation for his tax affairs in December of 2020, after the presidential election. At the time, a well-placed government source told Fox News that Hunter Biden is a subject/target of a grand jury investigation. The source also told Fox News the investigation was predicated, in part, by suspicious activity reports regarding foreign transactions. Another source familiar with the investigation told Fox News that suspicious activity reports were regarding funds from China and other foreign nations. The investigation, according to a source familiar with the matter, began in 2018. Hunter Biden has maintained that he did nothing wrong. In his December statement making the investigations public, Hunter Biden said he took, quote, this matter very seriously and was, quote, confident that a professional and objective review of these matters will demonstrate that I handled my affairs legally and appropriately, including with the benefit of professional tax advisors. Please leave a comment and tell me what you think about this latest update. If you could give this video a thumbs up, remember to click the like button. That's greatly appreciated. And make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. I will follow up soon. Thanks again.